Hello, and welcome to episode 2 of Webacy Talks, where we deep dive with founders, hackers, industry leaders, and more to really explore the latest in Web3 security, innovation, and the future of decentralized tech. Last week we got to chat with the McDonald's hacker for our first interview. This McDonald's hacker hacked the McDonald's Instagram, stole around $700,000. So if you missed that episode, please go back and listen to it. Today we're sitting down with Akshit, the founder of LogX. We really deep dove into prediction markets, what LogX is building, the pipeline for LogX. It is a very, very interesting conversation. Stay until the end, as there's definitely some alpha that Akshit dropped, but please enjoy this conversation with Akshit, the founder of LogX.
No, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me today. Just to give you some background, hey, I'm Akshit Bordia, co-founder of LogX, and it's been almost, I would say, 1 year since the product has been live on mainnet. In fact, last year around this time itself is when we pushed the product to mainnet. So that's where our journey started. Back in, I would say, 2023, when in the deep of the bear market, right? Our idea was very simple. We wanted to build something which was very, very closer to our heart, right? Which ourselves we were users of, and that's where we decided let's do one thing. Let's build LogX as a derivatives aggregator, right? An on-chain derivatives aggregator, and we started integrating these cool products like GMX, Hyperliquid, and a bunch of these, like best of the best derivatives in the markets. And the more we did that, the more we realized there is a very, very clear opportunity in the market, which is we can expand on so many new amazing ecosystems which are coming up. Like this, there was Mantle coming up, there was Base coming up, there was Linear coming up. So we thought, like, let's sort of, expand ourselves and offer the product we have built out to a lot of people. And that's why, like, the moment we sort of started expanding on these chains, we thought there is a need for building our own chain or building our own sort of own perp decks, and we did that. So that's where the journey of LogX started. Fast forward to today, what we have built with the first version of LogX is the perp dex, which is live across 17 EVM ecosystems. It's the largest out there in the space in terms of number of networks supported. We have 162K users who have used the product, and it's so interesting we are chatting today because I think like uh, just yesterday itself we crossed $20 billion of lifetime traded volume on the platform. So that's been the journey so far. And the most interesting thing or the most interesting development that's happening right now is as a product, we've expanded from the derivative space. And now we're building our own chain powered by Arbitrum, Hyperlane, and Avail DA, right? We're just sort of we're bringing like the best partners on board and launching our own chain, which would be hyper connected across every chain which we have supported in the past. And on this chain, gaslessly and without pop-ups, you would be able to trade any derivatives you want. In fact, we are like sort of bringing in liquidity from Binance, OKX, and Bybit combined into a single order book. You would be able to do it in a way so that it feels and works as fast as a centralized exchange. And then, of course, we are like innovating on a bunch of other consumer use cases as well. So yeah, that's been the journey so far. That's where we are going next. And we launched the testnet like almost a month ago, and then within a month we have 850K users on the testnet. So we want to like scale it as a mass consumer super app, and that's what like the vision is going forward.
Wow, that's so fantastic. I mean, the roadmap that you all have and what you've built, it's a testament to what you all are doing. I know we're going to talk about the bear and bull cycles, which is definitely something that we're very interested in. But okay, so I do want to run off script here. I mean, perpetual markets and prediction markets in general are a very interesting concept. I don't know if you saw the polling market CEO. He kind of started talking about how prediction markets. So let me give you kind of my solo perspective on prediction markets. Prediction markets to me kind of seem like a rebrand of gambling, right? And so it's kind
Yeah.
of this like rebrand, and everyone was kind of joking around at it, which I love it. I love the rebrand. I love that we're kind of taking a different stance on this. But yeah, I mean, Polymarket CEO kind of came out and he partnered with Perplexity, which is an AI search engine, and he talked about how prediction markets are the new search engine of the future. I would love to hear your thoughts on that, actually. I didn't know, because to me, I mean, my short, feeble mind, I was like, it's just gambling. That's it. We're having fun. But he's even thinking about, about prediction markets as a better way to have real-time polling and have search indexing on users. I mean, it's fantastic to hear. So I'd love to hear how LogX is thinking about prediction markets for the future.
Got it. I think like, okay, so let me tell you a very interesting thing. I fundamentally feel prediction markets are the true source of truth in society. Because like all of us predict something. End of the day, like imagine you can predict whether Donald Trump is gonna win or lose. Someone
Mhm.
else can predict whether I don't know it's gonna rain tomorrow or not. But it's a fundamental unit of society's thinking. That is what like prediction market conveys, right? By thinking about this only, as I was mentioning, right, like our idea is to go into the deep of launching these consumer use cases, which brings in millions and millions of users to crypto. We have also launched leveraged prediction markets. So imagine there is poly market, and then there is like leveraged prediction markets, because leveraged prediction markets would allow you to take a 10x or 20x leverage on your position and open a position hedged against like whether Donald Trump is going to win or Kamala Harris is going to win or whatnot. So at the core, I think like, and the reason we have done this because I think like there is something very very interesting and very very novel which comes out when you let people predict things online in an uncensored way,
Yeah.
in a way which is on chain. Because now whatever is presented in front of you is media. This is the
Mm.
true source of media. Whatever media is being like, published to you, or like everybody knows, like you pay this guy X dollars, you pay this guy like Y dollars, and it is like published and shown to you may not be the real media. The real media is what the public is predicting. So I think like in that ways, it's not something which is just gambling. Even though I understand that element is there, that rush is there, that psyche is there, but over and above that, what it genuinely portrays, if we do it in the right way, and that's why I believe like it has to be on chain. That's the way we are doing it, right? If it is like fully on chain, then technically the way you are like sort of running the market is you're letting the market predict the future, and that is true source of news, nothing else.
I love that. Okay. Yeah, no, I really love that. I just want to get your take on it. I know that you are building the leverage prediction markets, which is, something so new. And I think it's been such an interesting concept for me. I mean, especially as it's broken almost that fourth wall of stepping outside of crypto. I was watching like a political commentary the other day, had nothing to do with Web3, and he brought up poly market stats and prediction market stats. I mean, to me, it was like two worlds colliding. Of saying, this outside Web2 is using these prediction markets, and he used some others outside of poly market, but he's using these prediction markets to actually analyze, okay, who's going to win the presidential election, or even smaller things. So I just thought that was interesting. But like you said, I mean, I think you gave us a pretty good general overview of LogX, the ecosystem and everything that you guys are building. I'd love to learn about, what makes you all unique. I mean, we're all aware there's, a million L2s, there's a million rollups. We'd love to know kind of where LogX kind of fits into the market. It sounds developer, but yeah, I'd love to hear that.
Got it. So it's a very interesting question because I think today itself I posted about it on my Twitter. Right? What makes LogX unique, and what is it that we are like sort of doing special in the market? There
Mm,
are a bunch of layer twos. There are a bunch of I don't know pub dexes. There are like bunch of products across the board, right? But still, if you like really ask everyone across the board in crypto, the real question everybody is asking is where are the apps which are bringing consumers on board? Where are the apps used by a million consumers on a monthly basis? And that's where I think we discuss prediction markets as well, right? So, in my view, fundamentally speaking, Logix stands for those mass retail consumers who wants to or who essentially are interested in exploring on-chain activities, right? And of course like that site is growing over time, as we can like see on multiple chains, the number of wallets created, the number of ecosystems built out and whatnot. So logix fundamentally stands to serve that mass retail consumer base with
mm,
its interesting consumer use cases. That's what we ideally stand for. With that being said, I think like there is that requires, if you have to like move towards that vision, that requires two three very very fundamental things, and those are the things we are doing like one by one, which is going to probably take us like 12 to 18 months to achieve. Point number one, imagine, so I'll take the example of, let's assume, per dexes. Imagine Uniswap has 45 million unique addresses who have ever transacted on Uniswap since day one. The best perp dex out there in the market has less than a million users. That's a
Mm.
45x delta between Uniswap. Again, people who can technically like do anything on chain versus perp dexes. So what we did was we did a very simple tweak. If you look at like LogX networks testnet right now, which is live and Minute is going to go live in September, the biggest change you would see between us and any other pub decks is the chart on LogX and the UI on LogX looks 100x simpler, not 10x simpler, 100x simpler
Mm.
compared to any other pub decks. It's just like you enter your position, you select the leverage you want, you click on long short, whatever you want. And there is a simple graph, no crazy candlesticks or whatever. Right. So I think like at every step, we have to be very mindful of, am I catering to a user who understands all of this, like jargons and all, or am I catering to a consumer who has a very simple, basic experience altogether? So that is point number one. Point number two is that we also imagine like there are so many layer twos, layer ones, and whatnot, but still every Discord group that you see, right? Every place that you see across the board, you would see a very, very simple thing, very, very straightforward thing. Where is my gas fee token? Hey, I don't have a gas fee token. I want to try this chain and whatnot. So what we did with the chain was we did two, three major customizations. Customization one, we would pay 100% for your gas fees for the foreseeable future, so that you don't have to. B, just because we are doing this and we have built out smart contract wallets, you will not have to click your MetaMask again and again or your wallet again and again to sign transactions. And
Oh.
C, we custom tweaked the sort of time frame between two blocks, right? And we custom tweaked the Arbitrum stack to say that hey, it has to support 20k TPS, and B, it has to support sort of 100 million millisecond block time. Because of that, once you click on market buy order, you won't feel the difference right now between LogX and let's assume like Binance or Bybit or whatever, right? So we have matched that speed. And now only if we have matched that speed is when we can like literally allow mass consumers to come. So we've
Mm.
made as a what I'm trying to point here is you have to really make a genuine attempt to really say that, hey, my shop is ready for mass adoption. My product is ready for mass adoption. We genuinely care about every step of the funnel for mass adoption. And then on top of that, create unique use cases like leverage prediction markets. Maybe you don't have, like, imagine, like, I'm a normal user. Maybe I don't have a sort of a view on whether Bitcoin is going to go up or down tomorrow. But I
Mm.
for sure have a view whether Donald Trump is going to win or Kamala Harris is going to win. The view might be totally biased or whatever, but I do have a view. I think we have to bring those mass scale use cases, which are easier for normal people to adopt, with an experience which is like 100x easy than where we are right now.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Man, I loved all those points. Number one, it is, bringing about like or diminishing the complexity of crypto in general. I think there was a really strong narrative back in 2022 of would your grandma use the products, right? I think that was thrown around a lot. And I really think you guys are, adopting that vision in the future. And then, number two, taking a look at, I loved your note on, catering to what the user wants. And so like a prediction market that, like you said, they might not have an idea about whether Bitcoin would go up or down if they don't really have the analysis of that. But if they're stepping in, they're going to say, "Hey, I've done my research on the presidential campaign. I definitely know who's going to win. Of course, we all don't. If you knew, you'd be a billionaire by now. But they can actually leverage that in their thought process, which I think is so interesting. And that's something we're doing here at Webacy as well. Like we're really wanting. I mean, right now, crypto itself has a pretty bad reputation with safety and security. Right now, when I first joined the space, this was 6 years ago, everyone told me they're like, you have to get rugged first to really be into this space. And I always thought that was crazy. Like, I was like, so I have to get my money drained first, and then I'm technically in the crypto space. Like that doesn't make any sense. That this should be a lot more safe and secure. And here at Webacy, we're really creating and driving toward that vision. Like you said, it's not an immediate, hey, tomorrow Web3 is going to be, safer and more secure. But we're ultra nerds about security. We're always looking at that. And it sounds like you guys are doing the same in terms of complexity, in terms of, these public dexes. And I love those notes. I love that. Speaking of security, I'd love to know, and we kind of, surmise these questions here. I'd love to know, how do you all think about safety and security in the space? I know that LogX is now, I think you gave a metric of, like $20 billion that was transacted. Correct me if I'm wrong there, but safety and security should definitely be at the forefront. So how are you guys thinking about that?
So I think like here is the most interesting thing about safety and security, right? If fundamentally a lot of capital is not kept with you, doesn't matter whether it is centralized, decentralized, protocol, vaults, audited, whatnot. Fundamentally, what you're building is better. That's
Yeah.
that's the way I think about it, right? And in that particular perspective, the way we have designed LogX V2 is that it does not require liquidity from retail, from normal consumers to place trades to sort of experience the product altogether. The liquidity is bridged via, as I said, Binance, OKX, and KuCoin, and and technically a couple of other exchanges, top five exchanges. The liquidity is bridged across the board. So the point I'm trying to make here is a the biggest measure, and this is a very long thought measure we have taken,
Mhm.
contrary to every other chain out there, every other protocol out there who's thinking, let me take in maximum liquidity from the market. Our focus is to take minimum liquidity from the market required for trading for the consumer. So that's point one. Point number two is I think by design, we always have cared so much about security that we just don't like. I've seen a lot of players generally just do one audit or whatever, right?
Yep.
We usually ensure every major release goes through two audits. For example, currently LogX is getting audited by Salus as well as Peck Shield and a couple of other folks. And over and above that, we also ensure we have one sort of backend auditor because in every Web3 product, even though you see a lot of contracts, there are certain backend elements also for data storage and stuff. So one backend sort of a security person should also review the entire backend front end, whether the website can have a DDoS attack or something like that. So I think that's the way we think about it. And then we go one level deeper and say where is it that where we have real risk, and then on those sort of risk parameters we set up an extensive list of alerts that we get the moment things happen. I'll give you a simple example. When Ronin bridge sort of hack happened, let's say Axie Infinity bridge hack happened or wormhole hack happened back in those years, right?
Mm.
Only if there was a simple check, if transaction withdrawn is more than I don't know 2 million, 5 million, 10 million, stop that transaction, raise an alert, there is a checker there. Because nobody's going to withdraw 10 million from the bridge on a random day. And those were 30, 40, 50 million dollar transactions. So only if there were simple checks, which a normal, simple, high quality engineer can think of, these hacks would have not happened. So I think that's the way I think about it. Again, we are all iterating, we are all learning in this space, but I think the way we think about security is at multiple levels. A, don't take money, and B, if you take money, have right audits, and C, even after that, let's assume whatever happens, have some major fail-safe checks and alerting systems and all set up.
Yeah, yep, that makes perfect sense. Yeah, I think it's also a fine balance between, a centralized and decentralized kind of ethos in terms of, because I know you're saying, hey, let's have that check. And I brought that up as well. It's like to me, it's common sense. It's saying, hey, if there's a large volume, if there's 5, 10, $15 million, coming across this bridge, there should definitely be a flag, and maybe we stop that. And then there were some good arguments in terms of, that kind of tears down the decentralized ethos of crypto. It kind of tears down the ideology that we're all here for. So I'd love to know your take on that. Like, what do you think? Do you think it's more so of a security measure, or do you think that it's kind of clashing heads with the decentralized ethos that we're kind of all here for?
So I think think of it this way, right? There are certain elements which can be decentralized further. I'll give you one example. Let's look at the Stacks blockchain. Fundamentally, it is not decentralized. I'm
Hmm.
talking fundamentally. But what is happening at the back end is it has like 8, 10, 12 signers. So I'm saying like you can always have certain shared decentralized structures, right? Or certain shared structures where things can be much more smarter in nature and still have these checks. See, priority number one is to protect consumer capital. Priority number two is decentralization. That's the way I think about it, right? And of course, like it is dependent product by product. Like some products are like purely working because like they are decentralized. But in my view, the product that we are building, priority number one is always protect consumer capital. Because if we don't do that, everything else is secondary to it. Like think
Yeah.
of this, it's so fundamental. Someone has put some amount of money in a protocol. The protocol is liable to give that money back. It is a very fundamental right. So my view is very simple, like protect that fundamental right at all costs, and then slowly decentralize the elements where you are finding like some sort of an error, some sort of a issue, some sort of a risk. And then the moment you slowly decentralize those elements, I think like as you think, okay, I'll tell you this interesting thing. Whenever a developer is pushing a major release, it is almost impossible to think about every edge case.
Mm.
But whenever a very good developer is pushing a release, it is very easy to think about all the edge cases over the next 3 months, one by one. So just give yourself that time and then you can decentralize it. There's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. I think that's a really good point. Yeah, I mean, what we're focusing on over here as well, I know that protecting user funds is of course the most vitally important for a protocol like yourself. What we're also doing is kind of building like an on-chain like FICO score for Web3, right? And so if I'm interacting maliciously on Ethereum mainnet, and then I decide to bridge over to LogX, we're actually tracking, all of that on-chain transactions. We're tracking everything they've done, all the sanctioned addresses, and of course there's a threshold, right? Like if I interacted with Tornado Cash once, I'm not going to be flagged as a high-risk user. But if I'm maliciously interacting with sanctioned addresses on a continuous basis, and then coming to bridge over to LogX, from you all now, you're in that malicious actor is in your ecosystem, so to say. And so you guys actually have an insight, as to what their on-chain kind of history has been thus far. And then you can kind of know if they're, going to be malicious in the LogX ecosystem or not, which I think is pretty interesting. But yeah, I mean, safety and security, I think is vitally important. I'm glad that you guys are thinking on that, every single day. I think there's never enough conversation surrounding it. I think safety and security is one of those things where you'll have no one talks about it until it happens, if that makes sense. And so, the
Yeah.
hacks with like was your ex, Li-Fi, I mean, the list goes on. All of these people, we've chatted with some of these folks, not the ones I listed, but we've chatted with some of these folks where they say, hey, we don't need safety and security now. And then 6 months down the road, something malicious happens. There's a malicious actor that interacts with their protocol. There's some vulnerability that one of our partners could have helped with. So it's always just chatting about safety and security. I love that you guys are getting audited, almost on a monthly basis. So in terms of market sentiment, I know that we chatted about this a little bit earlier. I'd love to know, how you all, and it sounds like you built during the bear. I'd love to know first and foremost, builders building now. Like, what's your number one piece of advice for weathering the bull or bear cycle, as you're building a company?
I think to be very honest, right? Nobody knows when they're building it for the first time whether like another bull is gonna come or not. In
Yep.
fact, to be very honest, even till today, I do not know. Even if like let's assume I think like markets are optimistic, they'll like pump at some point in time or they'll just do better, there's going to be a bull cycle. I do not know when that's gonna happen. And I do not know whether that's gonna happen in the next 12 months, 24 months, 48 months, 92 months, or whatever, right? Nobody knows when cycles are gonna come, right? So I think like the real thing in this is very simple. Is you go back to the core of why you started, right?
Mm.
What was the reason you started? For example, personally for me, it was like I was genuinely very interested in whatever was happening in the DeFi space. So I just thought like I can also do this iteration. I can do an iteration which is like better than this. Let me do this. And even till today, like we keep doing the same thing, which is we feel our iteration can be better than what the market has, and we do that, and then we just improve upon that, right? So I think like, if you are clear why you started, it becomes much easier. But then here is the trick. I'll share the trick here, right? Which is Let's imagine someone is building in the bear market, bull market. Whenever they're building, even like you can be building in the bull market, but you might still like not make it in the bull, and then you like just miss the bull, and then you get into the bear market and whatnot. I think the trick is very simple. Think of it this way: the market has at least two opportunities for you if you're persistent, if you're smart, and even if you miss the first opportunity, even if you're waiting for the first opportunity, genuinely be persistent that at least a couple of opportunities are going to come for you. And then just watch the market. Just keep executing on what you're building. Get like consumer feedback. Get like, for example, like consumer feedback does not vary. Like it's the same with 10 users, it's the same with 100 users. So get like those 10 users even in the bear market to get feedback.
Yeah.
And once your product is ready, the real value is never created in the bull market. The real value is created when you're ready with the product, ready with everything in the bear market, so that the moment bull market starts, imagine like if you look at like our growth metrics, the moment market starting moving up, we sort of every month, every day, we started growing like 30%, 40%, whatnot. You cannot wait for the market to come. If the market has already come, then I think like 99% of the times you're just gonna miss it. So I think like that's the trick. Just be ready before the bull market.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I love those points. I think that really gives us. I think it gives a lot of builders right now because I mean I've seen a lot of people. They're like, I want to build, but I want to wait for the bull, right? And like you said, you never know. So just get to building, get your first 10 users, get that feedback. I know that Zoom is yelling at us now, but I'd love to ask, two more questions. Number one is a little bit more fun. Since you guys are building prediction markets, what is a prediction market that you're looking at? What's something that you might have invested into? Of course, NFA, go do your own research, but what's something that you're looking at in the prediction market space?
I'm very interested about fights in the space. I know like
Mm.
that they're like a bit toxic and all, like everybody's sort of hitting on each other in a negative way. But I'm saying like let's make it fun. Everybody loves watching fights. Let's
Yeah.
accept what consumers want, and then let's just mention out who's gonna win the fight. Who's gonna like, for example, like one of the recent like ecosystem, a couple like two three ecosystems started like fighting against each other. So it's a very consumer crypto centric sort of thing that is
Yeah.
there in the market. What if we can launch a market? Who's gonna win this fight? Let's assume like who's gonna launch first? Chain one, chain two. Who's gonna do like so some sort of these deeper online gaming kind of mindset based markets are the markets which I am most interested about. We'll probably like launch them also very very soon. So that's one category, and the second category is hyper localized prediction markets.
Mm.
Imagine you're on your Telegram, right, and then like you're chatting with like there is a group of like 500 people. You're chatting against each other. Hey, what's gonna happen on this? What's gonna happen on this game and whatnot? And within your Telegram, there is a pop up which lets you say yes or no. Let me bet on what I said. Let me put my money where my mouth is. So I think like that is what the thought is like, and that's what I'm thinking would be like quite fun to explore.
I love that. No, that's awesome. I love those like hyper localized prediction markets. When you said fight, I thought you were talking about I don't know if you saw like the crypto boxing. But I was like, okay, I was like, yeah, I could bet on some crypto boxing fights right now. But no, that's cool. It's almost like a social sentiment analysis almost, and like you're predicting on
Yes.
those. And yeah, that's awesome. I love that. Okay, last thing, I'd love to know like what's in the pipeline for LogX. You've talked about it, briefly, but and just kind of give some users like, hey, what's up for LogX? What's coming down the pipeline? What can I look forward to as a user? And why should I use LogX? I think you already talked about that, but just would love to know some future plans here.
Got it. I think like I'll keep it like very very sharp. The reason you should use LogX is because I think the product we have built on chain is the best on chain product experience you can ever get across anything in DeFi. Like that is something like I can hands down say, and that's one thing. What's next for LogX is we're going to launch in the month of September the mainnet of LogX V2. That's going to be an exciting launch. So that's two. And I want to drop in some alpha
Oof.
dollar log x, which is our native governance token, is going to be also going to be live along around that time frame, purely because it's the native gas fee token of the chain. We've custom tuned the chain so that the chain validators itself get value, or chain stakers get value from the token itself. by the economic activity or by, let's assume, transactions which are happening. So I think like that's sort of the core idea, is to like really make something which has a lot of consumers first of all, and second shares a lot of value with the community over the long term.
Wow, that's fantastic. Are you guys doing any airdrops, or should we push that aside?
Yeah, I think that's happening. So you can already like check it out on the website. It's a public program. But I think like more than airdrop, what I'm very excited about is the number of users we have. V1 had
Yeah.
162K users. V2 has 850K users. And I'm pretty sure once we go mainnet, we'll be able to get to 10 million users. That's the target forward. That's the way forward.
Thank you for tuning in to this conversation with Akshit, the founder of LogX. Make sure to tune in next week as we have a very special guest. And as always, please stay safe and secure, and we'll see you next week.